Today, we're diving deep into one of Canada's most explosive political sagas, a story of powerful corporations, political maneuvering, and a government caught in the crosshairs. This is the infamous SNC-Lavalin affair, and it's a masterclass in how easily integrity can unravel at the highest levels. So grab a cup of coffee, because this is going to be an eye-opener. Our story begins in Quebec, with an engineering and construction giant named SNC-Lavalin. For decades, SNC wasn't just a company. It was an institution, a national pride, landing massive government contracts both at home and expanding its reach across the globe. They built bridges, dams, infrastructure, you name it. But behind that gleaming corporate facade, a darker pattern was emerging. A history of bribery, fraud, and corruption, particularly concerning its dealings in Libya between 2001 and 2011. Fast forward to 2015, and the Canadian justice system finally caught up. The RCMP laid serious charges against SNC-Lavalin for fraud and corruption, accusing the company of paying millions in bribes to secure those lucrative contracts. Now, if found guilty, the consequences were dire. SNC would face a 10-year ban from bidding on federal contracts, a catastrophic blow for a company so dependent on government business. This wasn't just a fine, this was a potential death sentence for a Canadian titan. And that's when our tale twists into the corridors of power. Enter the Prime Minister's office, led by Justin Trudeau. The Liberal government was facing immense political pressure, especially in Quebec, where SNC-Lavalin employed thousands. The fear was palpable. A conviction could mean massive job losses, economic turmoil in a key province, and, let's be honest, a significant hit to their political support and future votes. So Trudeau's inner circle began looking for an alternative, a way to navigate this minefield. They turned their attention to something called a Deferred Prosecution Agreement, or DPA. This is a legal tool that allows a company to avoid a criminal trial if they admit wrongdoing, pay a substantial fine, and commit to cleaning up their act. It's a way to punish the company without necessarily dismantling it or penalizing innocent employees. Sounds like a reasonable compromise, right? But there was a big problem. Canada's independent prosecutors, after careful consideration, had already decided that a DPA was not appropriate for SNC-Lavalin. They felt the charges were too severe, and the public interest required a full criminal prosecution. And that, my friends, is when the pressure campaign truly began. According to multiple reports and later testimony, a coordinated effort was launched. Top officials, including those from the Prime Minister's office, the Privy Council, which is the senior bureaucratic arm of government, and even the Finance Minister's staff, began contacting the then Attorney General, Jody Wilson-Raybould. They urged her repeatedly to reconsider the decision and offer SNC-Lavalin that DPA. But Attorney General Wilson-Raybould stood firm. She saw her role as guardian of the rule of law, independent of political interference, and refused to bend. Her duty was to justice, not to the Prime Minister's political interests or economic concerns, and her refusal didn't go over well. Soon after, in a move that shocked many, Wilson-Raybould was abruptly shuffled out of her high-profile role as Attorney General and moved to Veterans Affairs, a clear demotion in the eyes of many. And that decision ignited a political firestorm. In early 2019, the story exploded into public view. Leaked reports detailed the months-long campaign to pressure Wilson-Raybould. Canadians were outraged, and rightfully so. This wasn't just about one company. It was about the very fabric of our democracy. It was about the Prime Minister of Canada allegedly interfering in a criminal case for political gain, an accusation that strikes at the heart of our justice system. Prime Minister Trudeau staunchly denied any wrongdoing, stating that his only goal was to protect Canadian jobs and the livelihoods of thousands of families. But the accumulating evidence painted a very different picture. Dozens of phone calls, meetings, and messages revealed a highly coordinated and sustained effort to convince the Attorney General to bypass a criminal trial for SNC-Lavalin. Even the clerk of the Privy Council, the most senior civil servant in Canada, was implicated in pressuring her. When Jody Wilson-Raybould finally testified before Parliament, her words resonated across the nation. She told Canadians exactly what had transpired, stating, and I quote, "There were consistent and sustained efforts by many people within the government to seek to politically interfere in the exercise of prosecutorial discretion." That, my friends, is the most polite yet powerful way of saying the Prime Minister's team tried to manipulate justice. Trudeau's response? He famously stated that Wilson-Raybould simply experienced things differently. That line quickly became a political punchline, a symbol of denial at the highest level, and a clear indicator of how disconnected the government seemed to be from the gravity of the situation. But the fallout didn't stop there. Another senior minister, Jane Philpott, a highly respected member of cabinet, resigned in protest, calling the situation a crisis of conscience. Both women were later expelled from the Liberal caucus for refusing to stay silent and for speaking truth to power. The message sent from the Prime Minister's office was chillingly clear. Loyalty, even above integrity, was paramount. Then came the highly anticipated Ethics Commissioner's report. In August 2019, the Commissioner delivered a devastating blow, concluding that Justin Trudeau had indeed violated the Conflict of Interest Act. The report found that Trudeau and his office improperly used their positions to influence the Attorney General and protect SNC-Lavalin. It was official. The Prime Minister had broken federal ethics rules. Despite this damning conclusion, there were no real consequences that many Canadians expected. No resignations from those involved. No prosecutions. Just apologies, strategic spin, and extensive damage control. Trudeau attempted to frame the issue as a misunderstanding, reiterating his focus on saving jobs, not interfering with justice. But that excuse, unfortunately, didn't hold up. The Ethics Commissioner's report found no credible evidence that thousands of jobs were actually at immediate risk. And ironically, in the end, SNC-Lavalin did plead guilty to a single charge of fraud and paid a substantial fine. The company survived, restructured, and moved forward. The Prime Minister's reputation, however, took a significant hit, and for many, it never fully recovered. The real issue here isn't just about corporate corruption or political pressure. It's fundamentally about accountability. When powerful politicians can allegedly interfere with criminal cases, pressure independent prosecutors, and silence whistleblowers without facing meaningful consequences, the very foundations of democracy begin to erode. The SNC-Lavalin scandal laid bare a government that, in the eyes of many, appeared more concerned with public optics and re-election prospects than with upholding the rule of law. 5 years later, the scars of this affair remain. Justin Trudeau became the first sitting Canadian Prime Minister found guilty of violating federal ethics laws. Not once, but twice, which also adds a layer to the perception of his government's ethical standards. And many Canadians still believe that the full truth of what happened was never truly revealed. The Justice Committee, led by Liberal MPs, controversially shut down its own investigation prematurely. Key witnesses were blocked from testifying, and crucial documents were withheld under claims of cabinet confidentiality. Every path that could have led to more transparency was, it seemed, deliberately closed off. That's not leadership. That's what many perceive as a cover-up. The SNC-Lavalin affair is a stark reminder of how fragile integrity in government can be. It showed us how the system can bend when those in power decide that the rules simply don't apply to them, and it revealed how easily truth can be buried under layers of politics, spin, and silence. So, what does this all mean for Canadians today? It means that accountability still matters. It means that ethics laws must be more than just symbolic gestures on paper. And it means that public servants who bravely speak truth to power, like Jody Wilson-Raybould and Jane Philpott, deserve our unwavering respect and protection, not punishment or expulsion. Because if there's one vital lesson from the SNC-Lavalin affair, it's this: democracy doesn't die in a single dramatic moment of scandal. It dies slowly, incrementally, when we collectively stop caring that the powerful are allowed to play by a fundamentally different set of rules. The SNC-Lavalin affair was far more than a political misstep or a brief controversy. It was a profound test of Canada's institutions, its ethical framework, and the leaders entrusted to uphold them. And while the government itself may have weathered the storm and survived the scandal, its credibility, in the eyes of many, did not emerge intact. This isn't just a story about corruption. It's a story about power. It's about loyalty overriding the law. And it's about how one scandal illuminated deep cracks in the foundation of Canadian democracy. This was the SNC-Lavalin affair, a pivotal moment that Canada, and indeed any democracy, can't afford to forget. Thank you so much for watching and for engaging with this important topic. If you found this discussion insightful, please hit that like button, share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into critical issues. Your support helps us bring these stories to light.